all of a sudden. Tannehill looks good. Start your Corey Davis. A.J. Brown's been a pretty popular pickup. No Delaney Walker today, so Jonnu Smith becomes an interesting. We'll talk
He's
about
been on the trade block too.
Right. So those are some good plays to me. Some plays I'm not really crazy about. Tom Brady taking on the Cleveland Browns. And not that the Browns are very stingy defense, but I just think that with the lack of vertical threats now, I mean, Dorsett's their vertical guy, but they want to dink and dunk. They're going to feature Mohamed Sanu. They're obviously going to throw to Julian Edelman. So I don't think Brady's going to have a very explosive game with the Browns. And then you also have Jimmy G just struggling all year long, and he's taking on the Carolina Panthers. I know it's at home, but Carolina's
going to be a good game.
You can't play today with any sort of confidence. I'm also not crazy about Jacoby Brissett, but don't be afraid to start him. Moving into the running backs, you have Dalvin Cook as a little too late to say Dalvin Cook. My mistake. That was a great play Thursday night.
He's talking about Week 9, folks.
You also have James Conner taking on the Miami Dolphins. That's a great play tonight Monday night after the bye week. James.
Time out. Dillon, is that you, or is that who I think it is? Rummaging through his boiler room.
That is Jay over there.
What do you do to have to get coffee? Do you have to grind your own beans?
All right.
He's literally
First of all, it was a door shutting. Second of all, I just remembered I had to take my cat to the vet because he's had a bad back, okay, and he's not been walking, and he's been going to the bathroom all over the place uncontrollably and looking kind of sickly. And we found out that he has a hyperactive thyroid, and he's only 6 pounds. He's lost 10 pounds, and he's about ready to die, and he had a slip disc in his back. And so I have to give him a thyroid pill every morning, and when I woke up this morning, I fell back asleep. I just remembered I forgot to give him. So, yeah, I was kind of freaking out because I'm supposed to be on time, and I'm 2 hours late. So, yeah, I'm sorry. I was taking care of my dead-ass, sickly-ass cat. It's a pain in my ass. Excuse me.
All right, 2 things. You're a damn good man, and I'm sorry for your cat.
It's a good meal of General Chow's chicken right there. I'm just saying, if you ever...
That is a I feel like, you know what? That's it.
Oh, that was wrong. Moving back into these running back starts, I think James Conner's a great play.
Muted.
He's a Monday night prime time. I always love those plays to begin with, but then you've got Conner very active.
It doesn't matter. You were already muted. I don't care that you can take it off. I knew you could take it off. It's just the point. It's the only power I have, and I will execute it. You still have to take time to unmute yourself. Therefore, I win still.
Also, you have Chris Carson in that Seahawks Atlanta game. I love him.
He's been a beast, man.
He has been great. He's been tough to take down. He's looked like his old self. The injuries have not nicked him up this year.
Finally.
Finally. So Chris Carson's been a fun train to ride this year, and now he takes on the same Atlanta defense we talked about that's been a doormat for opposing running backs. Speaking of running back doormats, you have the Cincinnati Bengals trying to slow down Todd Gurley today. It's an interesting matchup because, Gurley hasn't really been explosive this year. He did have a nice catch, a nice touchdown catch last game.
I'll give it to Darrell Henderson more than anyone.
Yeah. So I don't know. Obviously, you're not going to sit Gurley, but hopefully this is kind of like a renaissance game for him. I love Aaron Jones today versus the KC defense. I think that he's going to catch a lot of passes out of the backfield and also be involved in the running game. I know Jamal Williams will be in there as well in pass pro, but you don't have to worry about him. He's only had a few big games this season compared to Jones, who's been getting most of the touches. So I like Aaron Jones. I like Fournette versus the Jets. Fournette has just been the 3-down back that we never thought he could be coming out of the draft. I mean, it was always thought that he had stone hands and he was just going to be the 2-down thumper goal line guy. But wow, this is a career year for Fournette as far as catching the ball. And then you also have Latavius Murray, who becomes a great play with Alvin Kamara out, taking on this Arizona defense who has not been very good at all stopping running backs. So I think Latavius Murray, after a big game last week versus the Bears, is a guy you have to play this week. Moving into the sits, in that same game, although Chase Edmonds had a huge game last week, I don't think he's going to perform very well today versus the Saints. I think this is going to be an ugly game for the Cardinals in general. When they travel to New Orleans, I would not be happy about starting Chase Edmonds today. Also, Sony Michel is yet again going to be a guy who's touchdown dependent, and I don't think this is the type of defense that you can just run all over in Cleveland. So start James White, but sit Tony Michel today. Moving into the receivers. Also, I think you can play Shady McCoy. I'll throw that out there just because the Packers have had a few games where they've given up a lot of yards on the ground, and Casey's going to have to focus more on trying to get that part of their offense moving, obviously with Mahomes.
Yeah.
So feel free to play Shady McCoy today. Well, tonight, primetime.
We'll see.
Yeah, but I have Shady McCoy, but I already have my running back and flex filled because I have Aaron Jones and Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb playing in my running back 1 and 2 and flex spot, and I can't put Shady McCoy in as a running back or a tight end. So I mean,
yes, we should all be so lucky as to have the running back stable you have. Moving into the wide receiver.
I just wanted to point that out. That's all. Because you told me last week he can't be on my team, and so I went and put him on my team because you said so. So I figured if you said that, it means I should put him on my team, so I did. More examples of listening to Dillon's advice even when he's not giving you advice.
Dillon, I had a question about wide receivers before you start.
Hit me.
I got John Brown facing Philly, which I know Philly is really hurt on the back end. I got DJ Chark playing the Jets, who just had a monster game giving up yards to the Patriots last week. DeAndre Hopkins plays Oakland, which we know how that's probably going to go. Evans plays Tennessee. Cortland Sutton plays Indy. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the best lineup, but it's like I have too many receivers. I don't have enough spots.
Yeah, you've got the problem Jay has at running back, but yours is at wide receiver. I'm definitely sticking Hopkins in there after a big.
Yeah, I have him in there.
Yeah, performing again, but that's a tough one between the others. I think as far as John Brown goes, he's that explosive, like a few catches and one goes for 60 yards, whereas Chark has been more of a volume play. So I'd feel a little more.
Chark or Evans though, because Evans has been hit and miss this season.
Evans has been hit and miss, and I know this might surprise some people because Evans is definitely the better talent. But here's why I have added narrative. Maybe it's just me, but there's added narrative for this game for Chark because I think it's going to be Minshew's last game starting with Foles starting to get healthy again.
Think he's going to show up for his boy?
I think he wants to ball out.
I'll leave DJ in.
Yeah, if he wants to throw it all over the yard, and DJ's been his boy all year long.
Sorry, Dr. Super Bowl, you're going down today.
So,
well, on that note, I've got a little bit of a question. Let's say, okay, so I got Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I've got what the hell is it? Metcalf, and obviously I can't play Brown. He's on a bye. So do I put in Metcalf instead of Curtis Samuel, or do you just fly with Curtis Samuel because he's got a tough matchup this week?
Very tough matchup. The Niners
and Metcalf has Atlanta. I mean, let's be real.
Sherman's probably going to be on Samuel.
Yeah, the Niners have been extra stingy on defense this year. It's been unreal when it comes to, the players that you probably can't name on that team versus the production that they're getting. It's just crazy. But I'd feel more comfortable with Metcalf. I think this is going to be a breakout game. He's got to put the pillows on, man. Get some stickum and slap them on those mitts, baby. Cause
start catching toilet paper like little giants, baby.
You're getting open. Russell's hitting you, but you just got to finish the deal. But, yeah, Metcalf, once he has the ball in his hands, you just see him shoving guys off of him like he's in Little League. But
that's what else. I was going to say, or do I put in Tyrell Williams? What's the starting combination between those four? You got Valdez-Scantling, Curtis Samuel, Metcalf, and
Houston
Tyrell
secondary
Williams.
is bad.
Well, that's because I know there's other people out there with the same kind of conundrum because you're fantasy a lot of the time, Dillon, and I'm starting to understand this. It's not about necessarily how good a player is. It's about matchups. And so what are the best matchups out of those four?
Well, here's what's super interesting about the Tyrell Williams matchup. The Houston Texans actually just traded for Garyon Conley last week, who was the Oakland Raiders' first-round pick.
Who just got torched by Jake Kumaro.
Exactly, and got traded because of that game. So now you have a scenario where the former Oakland Raiders cornerback is taking on the current Oakland Raiders wide receiver one. I mean, you got to imagine these guys have been going at it in practice all year long. Who knows Tyrell Williams better than Garyon Conley at this point? So, and with you got Tyrell Williams banged up with his foot injury, first game back. I'm not crazy about him. Valdez-Scantling, the guy is so frustrating, right? I mean, all the talent, all the potential, targets coming his way with Aaron Rodgers on the money, but sometimes they just can't connect. But when they do, you can get 50, 60, 70-yard touchdowns out of the guy. And like you said, I don't love Curtis Samuel this week because of the matchup.
Can I add something? MVS is also off injury restriction now. Last week he was on limited snaps because of his high ankle sprain. This week he has no restriction on his snaps. And also he's going against Casey's secondary, which doesn't really have the speed.
Yeah, I was gonna say with them being banged up, mainly without Chris Jones at defensive tackle, there's really
and Frank Clark's out.
Middle. Clark is out. There's just not. I think
Kendall Fuller, their top corner.
Too many injuries on the defensive side. I think his matchup this week, for me, is a plus. Even though I would agree because he's been on my. It seems like the weeks I play him, he doesn't do well, and the weeks I sit him, he does well. And so, but I think at this point, seeing what you've seen, Dillon, you can agree or disagree with me here. What you've seen from this offense. He's almost, you have to start him in live or die because of his explosiveness and the fact that if you look at his production, it's off of very few catches and very few targets, and he goes off. Last week's a prime example. 133 yards and a tutty off of 2 catches. So, and that was 24.4 fantasy points, I believe. So, yeah, he's going to frustrate you, but with this offense, the way it's been rolling the last few weeks, I think you almost got to live or die, just kind of like you've had to with Dave's situation, and it's hard to put these guys on a bench because, like Dave sits Nuke last week, and he goes off. So some of these
for
guys
the one time in 4 weeks,
right, and that's the problem here. And I think so. What do you think? Is that right or wrong way of thinking, Dillon?
Well, it's especially right with your roster construction. I mean, you guys have opposite problems. Dave has a surplus of wide receivers, and he's trying to get the right running back combination in there. You have a surplus of running backs. You basically can't lose when it comes to who you stick in at running back, and you're trying to figure out who's going to have the big game at receiver. So when it comes to that situation, Marquez, Valdez-Scantling is one of those guys you would be targeting who has the big play potential, who can get you the big-time yardage, and has the quarterback to go along with it. So you're right. He's a must-play in your scenario.
Sony Michel or Devin Singletary?
Michel.
Ooh, I love it when we get into this parts of the show because these are the ones that most interest me. For out there, the guys. Here's one I saw on the internet: OBJ versus the Patriots, or Mike Evans and the Titans. That was on Twitter earlier on a poll.
Man, that's tough. I'm going to go Evans. Dave, what do you think?
You're going to go which one? Repeat that again.
I like both. I mean, OBJ is super talented and without injury is more talented than Mike Evans. I'll admit that. But Bill Belichick has something in him. There's an extra motivation to take.
I'm going to go Evans over Tennessee because, OBJ, right. I don't know what it is. Bill Belichick is like the dark emperor at figuring out secondaries for each team. He'll come up with a whole new scheme each week we haven't even heard of.
It's such a cliche. I even hate to say it, but he literally takes away what you want to do on offense.
Well, that's the conundrum here is I don't know what exactly the Cleveland Browns want to do on offense yet. Like, you would think, right, that they would want to get the ball to OBJ. But honestly, their most productive and most competitive games have been when Nick Chubb has touched the ball 25 to 30 times a game. And
for sure.
I don't understand in their losses, he's not on the field, and when he is, he's like a decoy, and they're just inconsistent and terrible. So yeah, OBJ, but I honestly feel like Belichick is more likely going to look at their their games they won and focus on what he feels like would be their best chance to beat them, and that would be Nick Chubb, which is bad for me, but you have to live or die with Nick Chubb at this point as a flex or starter if you're in my position because he just is dynamic. But I think if I'm Bill